Singing Honda Yamagachi. Honda Yamagachi. It's my dog's name. That's what we call him. We call him Honda because I had a dirt bike and it was a Honda. And then I have a dog. His name's Honda. I like him more than that dirt bike, but that dirt bike was fun. It was just a CR 100 or CRF 100. Can't remember. Mac, Caleb, I saw you guys in the comments before. If I type stuff before, can you guys see it? Pretty sure you can't see like any cameras or anything, but all right. Steven, don't know where Steven's at. That's fine. He's got a PDF of the like photocopy version of every single page of this thing. What could I wrote on it? I wrote on it during the conference. Well, after the conference, I was home and I was just thinking, God is at peace with you. What are you gonna do about it? Hopefully the camera quality is good enough. Yeah. I wrote in Sharpie on the front and I just didn't know what to think. Just wrote it. God's at peace with me. Did I write that myself? I wrote it on this here hard piece of leatherback. Yeah. Living, breathing words. We hear about that in here. Or because someone told us and then they said, go check it out. It's pretty cool. Stream link. Caleb, you want a stream link? Where is Remember, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing it. But there are things that I've heard in here that made more sense than anything that I've ever understood. And I've never really understood anything, so leaves me here to learn right in front of you guys. That's the beautiful process that we have going on. I'm gonna figure out how to put this in there. Is that the chat? Is that you guys? Just so you know, for anyone that's coming in, I'm gonna read straight through Romans chapter 4. I'm not gonna catch you up on Romans chapter 1, 2, or 3. Done a lot of hours on that. I want to keep it simple. So the first portion of the video is usually me and Stephen jibber jabbering, but I can talk, man. I can talk, let me tell you. So if you're coming in, just listening, just going to read the chapter right through. If you want to read with me, you can volunteer to read if your microphone sounds all right. I mean, this thing doesn't sound great. I realize that. David Simone actually gave me a nice microphone that I need to use. Good dude. Love that dude. He welcomed me in his home for a little bit. There's Steven. And David gave me a good mic. Steven's got a good mic when it connects.
I got a question for you, bro.
What's up?
Are you circumcised?
Yeah. My son's not, though.
Damn.
That's
You better,
nice.
you better get on that. Chop his dick off, or he's not going to be able to. He's not going to be able to share with the oracles of God.
Well, I'm not worried about that because the nations will be grafted in.
Wow.
Yeah. Grafted. Oh, God. How do you do that? God's funny. Everyone coming through the gates. You'll leave with a little less flesh and a lot more spirit. And apparently it's just clean. So this is Romans chapter 4. This is the little intro talk that I said that I would say with these guys. That we are here. We usually chat and then we just read right through. Caleb wants to come in. I have the StreamYard link ready to send, but I was just telling them we're just going to read right through. If anyone wants to volunteer to read, go ahead. Just as long as it sounds good. Like we can hear it. That's the whole point. Just get it out there. And then we will do what we've been doing. Just learn publicly. Maybe this is not the best way to say it but I'm learning every time I read through scriptures, but let's do it. There's the StreamYard link if any of y'all want to join. We're not like, again, no questions, no commentary, nothing the first way through. Steven has the good link of what is it? I was telling them earlier, the photocopy version of this on your
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
PDF.
You want me to
So
present it?
yes, please. I would like to have these words on screen because I
Alright.
don't. I think you might have sent that to me, but
Just give me 5
I
minutes.
okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
I figured you would have it faster than me. I'm not really technologically uh, there.
Yeah.
There's always something I don't know how to do. Google's a good friend of mine.
Google is a pretty good friend. Saint Stephen with a rose. Do I have a rose?
There's Caleb.
I wish I had a rose. That would be awesome.
Hello, Caleb. Where's the format thing? Sorry, guys, I'm huge right now. What? There we go. It gives me more options. That's
It
nice.
does. Oh, yeah, with the upgraded StreamYard.
I've not looked at this on my laptop yet, so I'm
Me and him,
pressing
yeah.
buttons. I don't even know what they do. What's up, Caleb?
Your
Hello, Seth and Steven, my brother.
how you doing, brother? You were kind of
Great.
jumping in and out at first, but you're here. Good, good, good. All right, Caleb. This is different. We're gonna have this is I guess a different version of going through Romans, Seth, because now we have our guest star here today,
Hello, Caleb. Glad you're here, man.
Caleb.
Brother.
Christ, Caleb.
I didn't realize that Caleb had just learned about grace in like past like 4 months. Dude, beautiful.
I am not gonna lie, Caleb. I thought you've always been here.
I thought so too. I was like, because I don't know. I just don't know people, and then you meet them, and you're like, I've always known you. Same spirit.
Yeah, it's like I thought I met you like a year ago.
Yeah, dude. Caleb, you're crucial. Thanks for being here.
Look at how still he is right now. Oh, that was perfect. Did you see that shit? All right, Seth, you're reading.
All right. Does microphone sound okay?
Oh,
Whoa,
Saint
where'd Caleb
Stephen.
go?
Oh, I know the song, the Saint Stephen, the Grateful Dead. Yeah, I know that song. That was on like American. Was that on their American album or I don't know. Whatever.
Who?
That's different. Oh, Caleb left. Damn,
Yeah, I
he
saw
was so still he vanished. Well, he'll come back. I think his connection might be bad,
Okay.
but it's okay. In the meantime, you can kick it off here, and we'll go through it.
How did we do this? Oh my gosh, I'm thinking we were gonna read through the whole thing.
No,
Oh
just
my
chapter
gosh, I was like, where do we switch off? And I was like,
No, just chapter 4 because we read chapters 1 through 3, and
five
if
and a half
anyone
hours
wants,
later.
yeah, if anyone wants, we have a stream or I have a playlist on my channel that gets into that, and it's
Oh my god, dude!
yeah.
I set myself a 2-hour limit. I know we could mull over this for days,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
lifetime,
Seth,
but
don't I know we have a 2-hour limit. I gotta go to
Oof.
bed early too,
Oof.
so I'll let you know. Like we'll wrap it up like 12:30 or something.
Beautiful. I was gonna go. Where do we exchange? Here we go. Romans chapter 4.
Here we go.
There's Caleb. Let's add him in.
Oh wait, one more thing too. Let me get my Greek out.
I'll try and join again if my internet doesn't
That sounds way
cut
better,
out
man.
again.
Yeah, Caleb, you sound way better.
Connection's solid. Solid.
So for everyone watching, of course, we have the Greek going on here, set up here for you. So just to let you know.
Okay.
All right, whenever you are ready, sir.
Alrighty. What then shall we declare that Abraham, our forefather, according to flesh, has found? For if Abraham was justified by acts, he has something to boast in, but not toward God. For what is the scripture saying? Now Abraham believes God, and it is reckoned to him for righteousness. Now to the worker, the wage is not reckoned as a favor, but as a debt. Yet to him who is not working, yet is believing on him who is justifying the irreverent, his faith is reckoned for righteousness. Even as David also is telling of the happiness of the man to whom God is reckoning righteousness apart from acts. Happy they whose lawlessness were pardoned and whose sins were covered over. Happy the man to whom the Lord by no means should be reckoning sin. This happiness, then, is it for the circumcision? Or for the uncircumcision also? For we are saying, to Abraham faith is reckoned for righteousness. How then is it reckoned? Being in circumcision or in uncircumcision? Not in circumcision, but in uncircumcision. And he obtained the sign of circumcision, a seal of the righteousness of the faith which was in uncircumcision, for him to be the father of all those who are believing through uncircumcision, for righteousness to be reckoned to them, and the father of the circumcision, not to those of the circumcision only, but to those also who are observing the elements of the faith in the footprints of our father Abraham in uncircumcision. For not through law is the promise to Abraham or to his seed, for him to be enjoyer of the allotment of the world, but through faith's righteousness. For if those of law are enjoyers of the allotment, faith has been made void, and the promise has been nullified. For the law is producing indignation. Now where no law is, neither is there transgression. Therefore it is of faith that it may accord with grace, for the promise to be confirmed to the entire seed, not to those of the law only, but to those also of the faith of Abraham, who is father of us all, according as it is written that a father of many nations have I appointed you, facing which he believes it of the God who is vivifying the dead and calling what is not as if it were, who, being beyond expectation, believes in expectation for him to become the father of many nations, according to that which has been declared, thus shall be your seed. And, not being infirm in faith, he considers his body, already deadened, being inherently somewhere about 100 years, and the deadening of the matrix of Sarah. Yet the promise of God was not doubted in unbelief, but he was invigorated by faith, giving glory to God, being fully assured also that what he has promised he is able to do also. Wherefore also it is reckoned to him for righteousness. Now it was not written because of him only that it is reckoned to him, but because of us also, to whom it is about to be reckoned, who are believing on him who rouses Jesus our Lord from among the dead, who was given up because of our offenses and was roused because of our justifying.
Bullshit.
What's the
No.
first word? What?
What? What is what that is? What?
Start off a sentence by using the most basic thing
It's any technically.
to start off any question.
See how it says any?
Oh,
It's technically
let's
any.
go to the Greek.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Someone was arguing.
Cross between Batman and Joker there.
I have to bring this up. Someone was talking about. Well, talking about. I don't know. He had a point that this wasn't originally thought in Greek, and it wasn't spoken in Greek or something like that. And I just said it was recorded in Greek that we know of. So we rely on the Greek. And he said it's just not beautiful enough. Like the Hebrew's so much better. And then kind of made me think of you. you're embarked on that journey.
You know what's funny? This word "what," I'm looking at the Bible, the Blue Letter Bible. It's a pronoun.
What?
What? You would think that
I need to go full screen.
what would be not a pronoun, but in Greek, this word here, what, is referring to like an object, which means and he says it's pronoun. Is it also pronoun here? No. This is a verb. What should we declare? But here it's a pronoun. What? So it's referring to us, not just shall we say, but what?
We are sustaining law is right before that.
Mm-hmm.
So
We are sustaining law. Oh, we. Oh, so yeah. So it continues with the we. Okay. Nice.
we would like to play.
Caleb,
Yeah.
say that word in Greek.
I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can even see it.
Here, I'll zoom in.
Oh, there you go.
T?
Yeah.
Is it the one highlighted in blue?
Yeah. This is the inflection, and then this is the word that it stems from. So here it's tees, but here it's T. I believe it's tees. Let me make sure.
Strong's G 5101 tees.
Yeah.
Okay, it's
So-
T's.
So it's T here when it's inflected in this verse, T, which shows that it's singular, it's a neuter, the gender is neuter, so it doesn't matter, and then pronoun. That's interesting. I never knew that what would be considered a pronoun to God, but I mean, again, it fits with the context. What shall we say? So
There's nouns, and then there's professional nouns. Profession. You say what you're about. They're about the nouns, and they pro about it. I think about this on the way to work. I was just thinking, profession. I'm declaring that I could do this the best, and I deserve to be paid for it. Profession. We say that we're a professional this, professional that. Is that a career? Is that just a job? Is that our livelihood? I say that we have a profession in declaring the word of God, and our riches are among the celestials. Wow!
Well, notice right off the bat. Okay, notice off the bat that he says, "We shall we declare that Abraham, our forefather." So he says this to the Romans, to an ecclesia in Rome, but he makes it clear that he says our forefather here.
Mhm.
So I'm of the opinion that it is not just the Jews that of our forefather of or it's not just the Jews that Abraham is the forefather of.
Yeah.
Um,
That was beautiful to read in that chapter.
because honestly, not only, I mean, throughout the chapter, he makes it clear that it's uncircumcision by which Abraham's declared righteous by faith.
Yeah.
But even if you look at Genesis and you look at the story of Abraham, he has a kid. I think it's Ishmael with Hagar, Sarah's or Sarai's handmaiden, and that gives birth to like the Arab nation. So I'm of the opinion, and even still, God's also keeping this here for us today. So I would even go as far as to say that anybody on the planet today who has faith is of Abraham's seed. And that's not to say it's the faith of Christ, but they have a faith in something unknown or not observed.
Mhm. I can't remember if we had some kind of method of going through this, and we went through it multiple times.
No, we're just
Each chapter
we go through word by word. Yeah,
I like to know what things are. So
Will
we
is here.
mull through it. Yeah. Saw Will. What's up, Will?
If you want to come in too, feel free. I mean,
Hello, William. You can
there's
come in if you want.
yeah, he's a good guy.
I don't know
I'm
where
a legend
how
now,
to
man.
in
I
this
moved
stuff
up.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Where's the chat thing go?
It'd be cool to get his thoughts, especially from an unbeliever perspective. Like it'd be
As long
Well-
as we don't get the preterists in here.
He just
oh God, no.
the beautiful thing about Will is he loves the word of God. He just doesn't like it on paper. That's what's so beautiful because the law is on paper and the
Yeah.
letter is killing
Yeah.
and the spirit is vivifying. And we have spirit. We have our very breath. We know that every single creature God ever created is absolutely his, and he locates all of them. If they
Mhm.
die, the spirit is his. He doesn't lack if they die because he causes it. That's how gracious God is and merciful, really. Mercy is that's something beautiful. The grace is that extra little treat. It's that mwah, it's the cherry on top. Everyone's already in the banana split. But like we're the cherry on top, baby.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's focus on the question that Paul asked. I'm not here for banana splits, my guy. Even though that sounds delicious.
I'm just goofing. Okay, anyways. Yeah, we unmerited favor. It's no choice of our own. Just as Abraham is that comparison where law came later,
Well,
after
notice that the questions that Paul is presenting are the questions that the Pharisees of the time would be presenting in Romans 3. So when we get to Romans 4, he's just presenting the next objection that the Jews would ask. So of course he's got to go, well, to them, it's all about works. And so he's kind of asking, it's a valid question. It's just an objection. It's just, what should we say that Abraham, our forefather, according to flesh, has found? So literally, what did he achieve? What did he find? What were his works? So it's kind of like a subtle way of trying to redirect Paul's statement from chapter 3 as, oh, well, maybe it's not so much focused on works, or sorry, faith, but there's some work involved now that you're justified. It's kind of the same thing that he covers in Galatians, and it's clearly what the Jews thought because James says it in James 2. It was like, oh yeah, faith apart from works is dead. But here Paul just presents that as an objection to what he is saying. Caleb, you got something to add?
Not really.
You don't want to add to the word of God? The preterists can do it.
I'm not the preterist. I don't want to do that.
Just
That drives
making
me
sure.
crazy. I don't know how Ace can put up with him so much.
Is there.
Yeah, he's there. He exists.
He's present.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like about people who ask questions is they're asking questions, and who knows who's listening? Who knows what is happened in anyone else's life or is about to be happening that would cause anyone to think grace is worth more than killing your neighbor? Like it's killing the Son of God, and God just says, "Yeah, I did that," and His Son is roused from the dead. And Abraham, who was long before him, the nation Israel came through Abraham, as did all other nations.
Mm.
What is that for real? No other nation apart from Abraham exists? Or is this a spiritual thing, or is this literal?
What do you mean? What are you asking?
All humanity. I don't know the Old Testament well enough. This is where someone who's read it 100,000 times would be really helpful right now.
Wait, say. Hang on. Let me understand.
Is every single nation that exists now out of Abraham?
No,
That's a good question. We'd have to look at the Old Testament.
it is not. The Tower of Babel and the splitting of the nations occurs before Abraham is called out. Abraham's called out last. So the nation, you could argue that everyone who has faith is of the seed of Abraham, and they are a part of the nations. But I don't think you could argue that every single nation is out of Abraham, because Abraham came maybe, I think, like a couple hundred years after Noah died. But and you can read about that. It's in Genesis 11 is the Tower of Babel, and Genesis 12 is where Abram gets called out. I think it's out of Ur.
Let's go there. Let's
Yeah,
go
like-
read about Abraham getting called out and being justified by acts. Wait,
I mean, yeah.
is
if
that
we're
what it
reading-
says?
Yeah. No.
Is-
No. The verse that we're reading says, "If Abraham," there's a contingency
Oh,
there.
okay.
If
Okay.
Abraham was justified out of acts, then he has something to boast in. So he does give that concession that, like, yeah, if it was justified by you did something for me, then he does have something to boast in. He can say, I did this, check me out. But it's not toward God, literally. It's just Paul's pretty direct here. It's really hard to when you just read the sentence for what it is, it's just like it's so much easier to understand apart from religion. But yeah, let me pull up Genesis. I can start with Genesis 12 if you want.
Mhm.
And we can go as
Well,
far as you want.
yeah. Just go wherever Abraham is. We can read right before, just see what's happening.
Well, yeah. So right before is chapter 11. This is a contrast between the beginning of the eon, which is the Tower of Babel, and the end of the eon, which is the one world order.
Let's read it.
The entire earth continued to have one language and the same words for all of them. It came to pass when they journeyed from the east, there they found a valley in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. They said, each man to his associate, grant attention. Do let us mold bricks, and do let us burn them with a burning process. So the bricks served as stone for them, and asphalt served as mortar for them. And they said, grant attention. Let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered over the surface of the entire earth. So yeah, this is again, this is a complete contrast between the beginning of the third eon, where the humanity wants to conglomerate, and the end of the eon. But if they had conglomerated here this early, there would be no contrast with which love can be displayed through yourself and myself, or Caleb. Then Yahweh descended to see the city and the tower that the sons of humanity had built. Yahweh said, behold, one people with one language for all of them, and this is what they start to do. Now anything they plan to do will not be restricted for them. Grant attention. Do let us descend, and do let us disintegrate their language there, so that each man may not hearken to the language of his associate. Then Yahweh scattered them from there over the surface of the entire earth, and they left off building the city and the tower. Therefore, one called its name Babel, because there Yahweh disintegrated the language of the entire earth, and Yahweh scattered them from there over the surface of the entire earth. So that's the Tower of Babel. And from here, God gives the records of Shem, and the reason he does that is because it ends with, no, that's not true.
What?
It ends with Abram somewhere. Yeah. Abram. It ends with yeah. So yeah, the genealogical records of Shem leads to Terah, and Terah leads to Abram, Nahor, and Haran. So Abram, Nahor, and Haran, all three brothers. And it is in Ur. And that's where we get into chapter 12. So he says, Yahweh said to Abram, go by yourself from your land, from your kindred, and from your father's house to the land that I will show you. I shall make you into a great nation, and I shall bless you. I shall make your name great, and you will indeed be a blessing. I shall bless those blessing you, and I shall curse the one maledicting you. In you, all the families of the ground will be blessed. So Abram went just as Yahweh had told him, and Lot went with him. That was kind of smart of Abram. Abram was 75 years old when he went forth from Charan. And Abram took his wife Sarai and his brother's son Lot and all their goods that they had gotten and every soul they had acquired in Charan. They went forth to go to the land of Canaan, and they entered to the land of Canaan. Then Abram passed through the land as far as the place of Shechem to the high oak. The Canaanite was then in the land. Yet Yahweh appeared to Abram and said to him, to your seed I shall give this land. Then Abram built there an altar to Yahweh, who had appeared to him. I wonder how he did that. From there, he shifted toward the hill country to the east of Bethel and pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. Ai. AI?
AI's been around this long.
This long?
AI on the east.
Jesus Christ, I didn't even know that.
China.
That's news to me. I mean, it's fascinating. He built an altar there to Yahweh and called on the name of Yahweh. Then Abram decamped to go in stages toward the Negeb. Now there was a famine in the land, so Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was heavy in the land. This is wild. He's just documenting everything Abram did. And it came to be just as Abram got near to enter Egypt that he said to his wife Sarai, "Behold, now I know that you are a woman lovely of appearance." That was nice of him. "So it will occur when the Egyptian men see you, they will say, 'This is his wife.' Then they will kill me, but keep you alive. Please say that you are my sister, so that it may go well with me for your sake, and my soul remain alive owing to you." It came to be when Abram entered Egypt, the Egyptian men saw the woman, that she was very lovely. Also Pharaoh's chief officials saw her and praised her to Pharaoh, and the woman was taken to Pharaoh's house. On account of her, it went well with Abram, and it came to be that he had a flock of sheep, a herd of cattle, and donkeys, men servants, and maid servants, jennies, and camels. Then Yahweh touched Pharaoh and his household with great and evil contagions on account of Sarai, Abram's wife. So Pharaoh called Abram and said, "What is this that you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she is your wife? Why did you say she is my sister? So I was about to take her from me as a wife. Now here's your wife. Take her and go." Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not their fault. They would have killed him. And Pharaoh instructed men to oversee him, and they sent away him and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him. This is interesting. You want me to keep going?
Yeah, I want to keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
Then Abram went up from Egypt toward the Negeb, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot went with him. Abram was very heavily stocked with cattle, with silver, and with gold. So he went his way by stages from the Negeb as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the start, between Bethel and Ai, to the place of the altar that he had formerly made there. And there Abram called on the name of Yahweh. Lot too was going along with Abram. He came to have a flock of sheep and a herd of cattle and tents. But the land would not sustain them while dwelling together, for their goods had become so abundant that they were not able to dwell together. There were disputes between the shepherds of Abram's cattle and the shepherds of Lot's cattle. And besides, the Canaanite and the Perizzite were then dwelling in the land. So Abram said to Lot, "Please, let be no argument between me and you, and between my shepherds and your shepherds, for we are men that are brothers. Is not all the land open before you? Please part from me. If it is to the left, I shall indeed go to the right, and if it is to the right, then I shall indeed go to the left." Lot lifted up his eyes and saw the whole Jordan basin as you come to Zor. It was like the garden of Yahweh, like the land of Egypt, for all of it was well irrigated before Yahweh wrecked Sodom and Gomorrah. Wow, so he predicted it. That's nice. No, well, technically this is written after the fact, but still. So Lot chose for himself the whole Jordan basin, and Lot journeyed eastward. Thus they parted, as a man from his brother. Abram, he dwelt in the land of Canaan, while Lot, he dwelt among the cities of the basin and moved his tent toward Sodom. But the men of Sodom were vicious and intense sinners against Yahweh. Then Yahweh, he said to Abram after Lot had parted from him, "Now lift up your eyes and see from the place where you are northward and to the Negeb, eastward and to the sea. For all the land that you are seeing, I shall give it to you and to your seed unto the eon. And I will make your seed like soil grains of the land, so that if a man were able to count the soil grains of the land, then your seed too might be counted."
Wow.
There you go.
Wow. God's exact. He knows exactly what he had in that field.
Yeah. Yeah. "Rise, walk in the land throughout its length and its width, for I shall give it to you and to your seed unto the eon." So Abram moved his tent and came to dwell among the oaks of the Mamre at Hebron. Then he built an altar he built an altar there to Yahweh. It came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goyim, that they made war with Baras, king of Sodom, Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shemaber, king of Zeboim, and king of Bela, that is Zor. All these they joined forces and came to the Vale of Siddim, that is the Salt Sea. For 12 years they had served Kedorlaomer, but in the 13th year they revolted. In the 14th year, Kedorlaomer came and the kings who were allied with him. They smote the Rephaim at Ashtaroth Karnaim, the Suzim at Ham, the Emim at Shaveh Kirataim, the Horites in the mountains of Seir, as far as the terebinth of Paran, and that's where my ex is, which is by the wilderness. When they turned back, then they came to En Mishpat, that is Kadesh. They smote all the. I'm sorry.
That's funny. It's just funny. Go ahead.
They smote all the chiefs of the Amalekites and also the Amorites who dwelt in Hazazon Tamar. So God has had a problem with the Amalekites since the start. That's funny. Then the king of Sodom marched forth with the king of Gomorrah. So it's just like a battle of the 5 armies type shit. What the fuck? The king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zor. They drew up in battle array against them in the Vale of Siddim, against Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, Tidal, king of Goyim, Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar. 4 kings against 5. Yeah, that's awesome. Now the Vale of Siddim had wells upon wells of asphalt, and when the king of Sodom and the king of Gomorrah fled, some fell into them, and the remainder fled into the hill country. The invaders took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their food and went away. They also took Lot, Abram's brother's son, and his goods before they went along, for he had been dwelling in Sodom. Then one who was delivered came and told Abram the Hebrew. He was tabernacling among the oaks of Mamre, the Amorite, and the brother of Eshcol, and brother of Aner, who had entered into a covenant as Abram's confederates. When Abram heard that his brother had been taken captive, he emptied out his dedicated men, 318 born in his household, and he pursued them as far as Dan. At night, he and his men servants split up against them. He smote
Wait. Pause. Does that mean that there was Hebrew before Abraham or before Abram, or it was introduced to him? What is that saying exactly?
What do you mean? Like,
go up a little bit. I don't understand, because I thought Hebrew had to do with Israel, and it said Abram. Oh, Abram the Hebrew told Abram the Hebrew. What does that mean? Then one who was delivered came and told Abram the Hebrew.
Yeah, look, he is the Hebrew. He is the first Hebrew. Is he not?
Okay.
Yeah. So
my brain is goofing, and I was thinking someone came along and told this random, person who God called out a random language that would then be his people's language in a way. That's what my brain thought. Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
No, it's fine, because I can see how it could be confusing, because God's not very clear with some of this, but it's fine. Abram the Hebrew, but then but yeah,
what
it's
is
been
the
doing
L?
Say it again.
The little abbreviation key.
This little here. That
and to the left of told. That's
the told is active verb.
Active verb form. Yep.
But the that's a good question. They have them at the start of this thing here. I'll keep in mind the page we were on. He has a little abbreviation key. It means 2 or 4.
Okay.
Let me go back. Interesting. Okay, anyways. When Abram heard that his brother had been taken captive, he emptied out his dedicated men. And at night, he and his men servants split up against them. He smote them and pursued them as far as Hobah, which is to the left of Damascus. He brought back all the goods, and he also brought back his brother Lot and his goods, and the women and the people too. And the women And the children, I think of Christian Haydenson. You saw Star Wars, when he said, I killed them all. But here it's saving them all. In the
Oh, okay. Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about? When he sounds like a fucking
You said
child.
Christian Haydenson. I thought you said
Hayden
Christian
Christensen. My
Hayden
fault.
Christensen. Well, I thought you were saying some other name completely. So
Mm-mm.
yeah, okay. No, yeah.
I killed them all.
Are you
Padme.
here to save us?
Now, in the Vale of Shaveh, that is the king's vale, the king of Sodom came forth to meet him after he returned from smiting Kedorlaomer, Kermit the Frog, and the kings who were allied with him. Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, he brought forth bread and wine, for he was a priest for El Supreme. He blessed him and said, "Blessed be Abram by El Supreme, owner of heavens and earth. And blessed be El Supreme, who has awarded your foes into your hand." And Abram gave him a tenth of all the booty. Then king of Sodom said to Abram, "Give me the souls and take the goods for yourself." But Abram replied to the king of Sodom, "I raise my hand high to swear to Yahweh El Supreme, owner of heavens and earth, I shall assuredly not take anything from all that belongs to you, from a thread to a sandal lacing, so that you should not say, 'It is I who made Abram rich.' Nothing for me but what my retainers have eaten, and the portion of the men who went with me, and their Eshcol and Mamre, they should take their portion. Sorry,
Dude, that's
that
whoa.
was wild.
I've heard the sandal part before, but just before the sandal part, declaring that he knows, that he believes that all will be given to him through his seed. And he believes that it really is all Yahweh El Supreme, owner of the
Yep.
heavens and the earth.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
And I mean, so Abram understood something back then that true believers understand today, that he is the owner of heavens and earth. And that again goes right in line with what Paul is saying in chapter 4 of Romans, about how if for 1 second Abram could say that, or sorry, that he what did the verse say? If he was justified by acts, he has something to boast in, but not toward God. So here, when we're looking at Abram's story, it's very clear that it is not a man who makes Abram rich. It's not even Abram who makes Abram rich. It's Yahweh El Supreme, owner of heavens and earth. And he says it even here. We have not even read the verse yet where he says, "And Abraham was justified or reckoned to him for righteousness." Even though we're about to read it, we haven't even gotten to that point because it's so focused on making it clear Abram has done nothing. He has not done a thing for God in order to get the gift that he's been given.
We should look up that phrase, Yahweh El Supreme, because in my head, I'm just imagining a giant plate of nachos.
That does sound
The best plate of nachos you've ever seen in your life.
delicious.
So I want to look that phrase up.
Well, I'm looking.
That title,
So
Yahweh El Supreme. That is epic, dude.
I'm looking here. That is, I have lift up mine hand. El Yahweh. Wow, I love that. So unto. So this is unto. The L, that's a preposition. So unto Yahweh El, the Most High, Supreme. He lifts up his hand, which is over here. This is Yadi, Yadi, Yadi. And then over here, yeah. El Yahweh El. That's technically, it doesn't really matter. It's a move thing. El Yon.
What is it?
El Yon. That's an O sound. Elyon. L. This is an E. This sounds like
Okay.
This is O. And then Y. Then O. N. This
Holy
is Bali style.
Nikes, man. This is beautiful.
Elyon. And I love how it just like supreme. Look at that. Right hand, sacrifice, increasing.
Oh my God.
It's so fucking awesome. And you know what's even crazier? This here, this lamed, I think I've said this to you before. This represents teaching or learning something. So he teaches his right hand, Christ's sacrifice, and increasing the knowledge that goes down. You can see. And this is the eye. This represents eyes that are looking at you.
I just see like a face blowing out of a horn.
You could see that. I mean,
Maybe
it's
that's not
externally
intentional, but God is perfect in how he has displayed his
Yeah.
word. And if he chose Abram, the Hebrew, you've clarified that. Wow. And that guy that was saying, yeah, it wasn't thought of in Greek. Okay, what language does God think in? Does God have to think in Hebrew, or is God above
Yeah.
languages?
Yeah,
He's above all the languages. He made all the languages.
You think he knows a thing or two about how these shapes all plan out to where all these shapes work everywhere else in the world, and specifically right here, it looks like something coming out of the heart. That's what I see. Because look, we know that the
Yeah.
eyes of our heart have been enlightened. That's what I'm seeing right there.
Look,
That's Christ declaring.
when you
He
write
is.
the lamed, it kind of looks like
It just looks like a profile. It looks like a profile leading up to the bottom lip. And you don't speak necessarily with the top lip. You speak more with the bottom lip.
Mhm.
The top lip does what the bottom lip tells it to do. We have mandible jaws, which is so beautiful about humans. A cow's not going to go talk to you necessarily, but a donkey did at one point, you know. So
Yeah.
we have mandible jaws for a reason. We have tongues, we have lips, we have facial structures. God creates a language for humans that we would even know this.
Yeah.
So we ain't getting all freaky deaky on you. We're just getting down to the basics of communication. God chose a Hebrew, or to call someone a Hebrew. Then he done brewed a good pot of everything with all that.
He's pretty smart.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually have to excuse myself for a little potty break.
Yeah. He has to go pee.
That's the proper man's English. I have to piss. So yeah, if anyone wants to come in, I can put the link back up. We're just learning through this stuff. Dan, love you, bro.
Anyone wants to come in unless you're preterist, they can.
No,
can come in.
preterists could come in because we're just learning. And if people get controversial, that's not the point. But at the same time, you can't stop people from being in opposition to the truth because it's so
Yeah.
damn good. Some people just
A lot
they
of
have,
things he
have
says
an
are
ear
kind of
for it.
funny.
Some people got to ask questions, you know. And me, I was sitting next to my dad for a while, just like, what does this mean? He'd tell me, like, what does it mean? He'd tell me we'd go through every single word. And he's like, Seth, you just got to do this. You know, we'd read through a little bit, and he's like, Seth, just do this. So I just read everything on my own, and it's
That
just
must
so
be
good.
awesome to have a dad as a believer.
Holy shit, it's crucial to my understanding because he taught me everything instead of the truth, but his heart was there, and in the believers that we know, they were estranged from God just like we were once estranged from God. And he got it a little sooner, in the chronological timeline, but in the grand scheme of things, he had to live twice as much of a life as me, pretty much. Like he probably didn't get it till he was like 40 something. And me, I was 22. And it smacked me. And I had heard it for, almost a decade at that point. But I didn't believe it. And then God's like, here you go. Boom. In. Get it. And the thing is, for those who are about to be hearing or have heard and understand that this evangel is your evangel, this is an evangel of peace dispensed by Paul from the glorified Christ. the words of God. You are now a living, breathing word of God. Before, you might have walked in darkness. You might have not known shit. Up from down, left from right, God from Christ. But here you have the truth. And we are students, but at the same time, I'd like to say we're somewhat teaching, because we're showing you this is how you study. You just read. Just go to the scripture. Have your
Seth,
friends around with you. Talk
Seth,
to each other. Talk to yourself.
Seth, shut the fuck up and go
I gotta
pee.
pee. I forgot. It's the excitement of having to pee that I start rambling.
Nah, you're fine, bro.
I'm gonna
Look.
before I go. Before I'll never be back. I'll never be back.
Don't tell me that.
I love
It's
your
gonna be the
shirt.
Thanks, bro. I'm gonna make some more and try to get them out there. I need to.
You're crucial.
my
Actually,
apartment's
pretty
piling up
awesome.
with stuff, and I still have more stuff coming. It's a problem, but there's a solution. Oh, y'all, I need to get my website going so I can.
Gentrification.
No,
No.
it's a melting pot. It's just a melting pot. Notice how the colors are separate, but they're all part of one color scheme, one realm of everything. That's what
Seth,
we are. Everyone
Seth,
thinks
yeah.
when you become a believer, you're just gonna be part of the mush, and it's like, do you think God gave you delicious food or mush?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you guys have had terrible school food before, or
Oh,
wherever.
that shit is terrible.
Oh, you've had terrible food. And it's just like, you know what good food tastes like when you taste good food. I'm gonna go pee. You guys are crucial. I'm gonna try and do everything for free.
Yeah. Well, I hope it doesn't cost money to go pee.
Every time I flush that toilet. No, I'm just kidding. Water's included in the total rent. That's nice. I leave the sink running the whole time I brush my teeth. I'm gonna go pee.
When he comes back, I need him to tell me about how he shits. It's important. Caleb, you want to see what I'm doing with Hebrew? I'm learning Hebrew. I'm making little flashcards.
Well, that is awesome. Did Ben Abraham teach you a thing or two about it, or?
Yeah, Ben Abraham taught me the alphabet, but now I've just been like going off. I've been like learning to write it. Like this is At. This is brother in Hebrew, and then the next one is mother. This is M. But I'm learning slowly, and it's just like little things. Like here's metal.
I left for a few
Hair.
moments and it's already on fire.
This is
Just
hair.
kidding.
This is Hebrew.
Damn,
It's
that's
really
pretty cool.
basic fucking Hebrew. But yeah, I was showing Caleb. I made like little notes.
Is it easier to learn than Greek? It probably is, isn't it?
I can't really say because I haven't spent too much time like studying Greek. I know Marisa spent a lot more time studying Greek, and she says it's all coming really easily to her. So I guess there's that. But that I just don't know. I look at the Greek and I look at the parts of speech and stuff on the Blue Letter Bible, but that's about it. Seth, we were about to watch God do some cool shit.
You're about to. Did you stop? Did you stop watching?
At 15. At 15. He said, after these things, the word of Yahweh came to Abraham in a vision. Or sorry, Abram in a vision. I wonder how he did that. You must not be fearing, Abram. I am your shield, your exceedingly increased reward. Abram replied, my Lord Yahweh, what shall you give to me? I am going heirless, and the successor to my house, he will be Damascus Eliezer. And Abram added, behold, you have given no seed to me, and now a son of my household will take over from me. Yet here the word of Yahweh came to him. Wonder how he did that. Saying, not this one shall take over from you, but rather the one who shall come forth from your internal parts. He shall take over from you. Then he brought him forth outside and said, now look up toward the heavens and count off the stars if you can number them. And he promised them, thus shall become your seed. Now Abram believed on Elohim, and he reckoned it to him for righteousness. There we go. He also said to him, I am Yahweh, who brought you forth from Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land and to tenant it. Yet he replied, My Lord Yahweh, whereby shall I know that I shall enjoy its tenancy? Now he said to him, Do not take me for take from me, or sorry, do take from me a heifer in her 3rd year, a goat in her 3rd year, a ram in his 3rd year, a turtle dove, and a fledgling. So he procured all these for him and sundered them through the middle and put each sundered part to meet its corresponding part. Yet the birds he did not sunder. Birds of prey descended on the severed corpses, but Abram turned them back. When the sun was about to set, a stupor fell on Abram, and behold, the dread of towering darkness was falling on him. Then he said to Abram, You shall know that your seed shall become a sojourner in land which is not theirs, and they will serve them, and these will do evil to them and humiliate them for 400 years. That's the Egypt. But I will indeed adjudicate the nation which they shall serve, and afterward they shall come forth with great many goods. As for you, you shall come to your fathers in peace. You shall be entombed at a good gray-haired age, and in the 4th generation they shall return here, for hitherto the depravity of the Amorite is not yet total. It came to pass when the sun had set and the darkening came, behold, a smoking stove and a fiery torch passed between these severed parts. On that day Yahweh contracted a covenant with Abram, saying, To your seed I give this land, from the stream of Egypt as far as the great stream, the stream Euphrates, the Kenite, the Kenizzite, the Cadmonite, the Hittite, the Perizzite, the Rephaim, the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Girgashite, and the Jebusite. Do we want to keep going?
Yeah, why not?
We can go back if you want. I don't know how much further it goes.
It goes on. There's still like another 4 chapters at least talking
Yeah,
about
let's-
Abram's story.
Abram, what did he do to be rolling with Yahweh? What was his whole thing? How did he
Well,
get there?
it doesn't sound like he did anything, if I'm being honest with you.
Nothing? No
It's
acts? Nothing?
yeah. Last I checked, it looked like God kind of came to him and said, "Hey, guess what? I'm doing this for you." So,
No paper? Nothing?
well, maybe there was paper. I don't know, but I wasn't there.
You think
So,
they had to sign it?
well, clearly they had AI, so I don't know.
They also had really sharp knives.
Yeah, there was a whole
Oh my
battle that
God.
we read. We definitely read like an entire war in the span of like 17 verses, and
Yeah, I was thinking about the end times, the unveiling of Christ, as opposed to what was Abram's existence and his experience, because he was led everywhere by Christ, or by Yahweh. Sorry, and it's incredible that all these nations, they come together, they fall, they you see a unity, you see falling apart, you see patterns that God uses in his grand scheme of things. And yet these are all individual experiences chronologically throughout history. So we can never say it's the same thing twice.
yeah,
Like Christ before he's dead and after he's roused, you can't say it's the same dude
right.
completely. He's got something more.
Oh, Pixie's in here.
And he was I guess I should say Christ was complete before. He's complete after. But he
Guys,
also brings everyone with him. That's more complete. Yeah, I didn't want to misspeak and say that Christ was incomplete before he had died. We know the end, so it's a good thing that we see that he gains the more. How do you gain the more? If you already have all, how do you gain the more?
Yeah.
Especially these. That's how. Especially you, especially me. Whoever God calls out, not their fault, not our fault. We herald opportunely, inopportunely. Where are we at again? Where are we at? Chapter 4?
Mm-hmm.
All right, it's verse 1 up there. Just want to see it. I like ones.
What can we
Even if it's not
declare
written.
that he's found? And then we go into if Abraham was justified by acts, he has something to boast in, but not toward God. And then he corrects. He says, "Now look, what does Scripture say? Abraham believes God, and it is reckoned to him for righteousness." This is not the same righteousness, by the way, that we are given in Romans 3. He's saying this is the same quality. He's saying what literally Christ's faith is being planted in you. That's what he was talking about in chapter 3, into all the ones believing. And he gets into what that means. Like, you're being justified by faith. The same way that God declared something to Abram and said, you're justified in believing me. That's pretty much what he said here. And now Paul is not saying that you're sharing of the same allotment that Abram is. He's saying this is like the way that Abraham was literally justified. God's saying that to you right now in you reading Romans 3. So even though like throughout the entire story there, we saw like 3 chapters where nothing really happened with Abraham. Like nothing explicitly was said that Abraham did. And the same is true of us. Abraham kind of just complained to God, if I'm being honest with you. He, especially starting chapter 15 there, he just kind of said, hey, look, I'm kind of over this shit. And then God said, hey, look at the sky, dumbass. And that was it. And
Yeah, he's just, I have everything. It's all for you. And still complains. That's me. I didn't do anything to get it, and I'm still fucking complaining about it. I haven't even seen it yet. You look up. Oh, there's heaven. What about the upon heavenlies? Have we seen those? Well, we will. It's our home. We're going there. It's a guarantee.
what are you talking about? I saw them last week. You're just not paying attention, Seth.
My feet are grounded on terrestrial dirt right now, man. My head is Christ among the celestials now. In spirit, it's that recognition. It's believing God. And
I guess.
he called him such, the God of the heavens and the earth, almighty. It's everything. Almighty just ain't some mighty, it's almighty.
So remember in the last chapter where it said, God is one who will be justifying the circumcision out of faith and the uncircumcision through faith. He says Abraham's our forefather. He serves both of those purposes by showing what that faith really means. And Abram didn't have any seal of circumcision. We've read from what we read from Abram from the end of chapter 11 to the end of chapter 15. Not one time did God say, and then Abram circumcised himself. The tippy of his dicky was slitty.
Does he ever?
He does in chapter 17.
Jesus Christ. Let's go read that real quick. Just to show, there's 5 chapters, 6 chapters before anyone's got to get anything done to them visibly. This is circumcision in spirit. This is unseen.
Well, yeah, let's fast forward. We fast forwarded through chapter 16. He says, oh, wait, well, this was the part where he gave birth to Ishmael in chapter 16.
This is actually more true to be circumcised in spirit rather than in the flesh.
Seth, I'm not going to lie. I kind of want to read this because this also shows part of that justification. Abram's not perfect. He's just
I need to turn off this fan. I didn't know this thing was on. Sorry.
He says, starting here, he says, now Sarai, Abram's wife, she had borne him no children, yet she had an Egyptian maid, and her name was Hagar. So Sarai said to Abram, behold now, Yahweh has restrained me from bearing children. Please come to my maid. Whoa, some sexy times. Perhaps I shall be built up through her. And Abram hearkened to Sarai's voice. This is what Adam did. Thus, at the end of 10 years that Abram had dwelt in the land of Canaan, Abram's wife Sarai took her Egyptian maid Hagar and gave her to her husband Abram as wife for him. So he came to Hagar, and she became pregnant. When she saw that she was pregnant, her mistress was lightly esteemed in her eyes. Then Sarai said to Abram, my wrong is on you. I gave my maid in your bosom. Now she sees that she is pregnant. I am lightly esteemed in her eyes. May Yahweh judge between me and you. Oh, so they knew that pride was bullshit. So they thought, oh, it was Sarai that made me pregnant, not Yahweh. So she knew that it was wrong. Okay. Abram replied to Sarai, behold, your maid is in your hands. Do to her what is good in your eyes. So Sarai humbled her, and she ran away from her face. A messenger of Yahweh found her at a spring of water in the wilderness. It was the spring on the way to Shur. He said, Hagar, maid of Sarai, from where have you come, and where are you going? She replied, I have been running away from the face of Sarai, my mistress. And messenger of Yahweh told her, return to your mistress and humble yourself under her hands. Besides, the messenger of Yahweh spoke to her, I shall increase your seed so that it cannot be numbered for multitude. Again, the messenger of Yahweh spoke to her, behold, you are now pregnant and shall bear a son. You will call his name Ishmael, for Yahweh has heard of your humiliation, and he shall become a man like an onager, his hand against all, and the hand of all against him, and against the face of all his brothers he shall tabernacle. Hagar called the name of Yahweh who had spoken to her. You are an El of seeing, for she said, have I indeed seen here after the one who sees me? Therefore the one called this well of the living one who sees me. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered. Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram called the name of his son, whom Hagar had born for him, Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael for Abram. This, I believe, is the beginning of the Arab nation right here. Oh, Seth left.
I can hear you.
Well, that actually does make sense if you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the beginning of the Arab nation here, when Hagar bore Ishmael.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's incredible that God can do something with, and he's doing something with what we do vainly, what we do thinking we know better. And what does the whole world do? We look at creation and we don't see God.
One of my favorite verses in all of Genesis comes up right here, because it says, when Abram was 99 years old, Yahweh appeared to Abram. I wonder how he did that. And said to him, I am El who suffices. Walk before me and become flawless. I am determined to give my covenant between me and you. I shall increase you exceedingly. Exceedingly. This is my favorite verse. It says, then Abram fell on his face.
Nice. I'm going to cook some eggs.
That's just so fucking awesome. And Elohim spoke to him, saying, as for me, behold, this is my covenant with you. You will become the father of a throng of nations. This is where preterists would be flipping his shit. The covenant, he said the covenant, he said my covenant, that was a covenant. So your name shall no longer be called Abram, but your name will become Abraham, for a father of a throng of nations have I appointed you. I will cause you to be exceedingly fruitful. I will make nations of you, and kings shall come forth from you. I have set up my covenant between me and you and your seed after you, throughout their generations, as an Aeonian covenant, to be Elohim to you and to your seed after you. And I give to you to your seed after you the land of your sojournings, all the land of Canaan, as an Aeonian holding, and I will be Elohim to them. Then Elohim spoke to Abraham, as for you, you shall keep my covenant, you and your seed after you, throughout their generations. This is my covenant that you shall keep between me and yourselves and your seed after you. Every male among you is to be circumcised. Namely, you will be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin, and this will be the covenant sign between me and yourselves. Notice this says sign, not requirement. This is just an indication of the promise that Abraham gave, or what Abraham was given.
What is faith? Stephen, what's faith?
What is faith? Something that is, believing something that is not being observed or seen.
Okay.
And that is, again, this sign, and Paul got into it in chapter 4 of Romans, which we can talk about later. The sign here is what is shown to be the physical manifestation of that faith. It is not a requirement of that faith, but a seal of that specific covenant that was made with Abram. Throughout your generations,
What chapter
every
was he called out in again?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What chapter was he called out in again?
Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 3.
And where are we now?
We are in chapter 17.
May
verse-
I be a
Beautiful.
token unbeliever for a moment?
Hi, Pixie.
Pixie. Hello, Pixie. I didn't know you were here.
Hey,
It's good to meet you.
you too.
Hello, Pixie.
Hi. May I be a token unbeliever for a moment?
You are allowed. It is
We're
with
barreling into everybody.
I don't understand what's either happy or amazing about this story, right? Like looking at this story is a lot like looking at Job and thinking, "Oh, how beautifully wonderful." Like it doesn't equate in my mind because first of all, you have a lot of people of disadvantage in this story. But second of all, it unfolds in a way where one mother spares her child from a curse, but not herself from a curse, right? And the other mother is a mother, but she, at the expense of knowing that because she didn't do things the right way, she is not the first mother, right? Nor is this union as pure as it should have been. And on top of that, you now have two people promised nations that are not going to get along, that are obviously not going to get along. This is a setup for a long battle to come. And I don't understand why awesome is the word that comes to mind when we read this.
I have one question for you, Pixie.
Listening.
What do you think of Romans chapter 4?
Okay, I grew up with the Bible, but it's been a long time, and I don't know if I'm thinking of chapter 4 or chapter 8, so let
That's
me
right. Let's
Google.
go to chapter 4. That's what this whole video is about. We're studying Romans chapter 4.
Oh, okay, okay, so I was thinking of chapter 8.
Yeah, we've been reading about Abraham just to realize.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a
Truth
sad
about
story to me,
history.
right? Like, I don't know that I can say it's the truth about history. It could have some truth in it, but I just
It's written here. I think I believe it. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying I do, just because of
right.
what's written, not because of a story someone told me.
But you used the word amazing was used multiple times, or what was being accomplished here was awesome. And to me, when I read this, what's being accomplished is the setup of two nations that are going to be in a lot of strife for a long, long time. And I just don't understand why that's great.
Did you hear the part where I said that it's awesome that God can use what we think is best to actually bring us in? That none of us are estranged forever. Even Ishmael, who was Abraham's fleshly act, his carnal mind thinking, his idea of, I'm getting old, I may not have much fruit left in these loins.
I guess
he tried to get to it, and he did it. But
I guess that's what's difficult for me, though, right? Because Ishmael shouldn't have had that burden. Ishmael did not ask to be conceived. His mother did not. His mother was not reconciled or freed from the curse. She carried that. She asked that her son be spared.
You see the verse here, Pixie? This is Ecclesiastes 1:13.
I'm reading.
So I agree with you that it's not fair. I 100% agree with you. And if we are limiting our view to only what is said in Genesis here, yes, it is 100% just tragic. But that's what's so special about why we're reading not just that, but I'm sorry. Did it not change over here? I'm sorry. That's my
I
fault.
don't know. I Googled it.
It's Ecclesiastes 1:13. It is an experience of evil Elohim has given to the sons of humanity to humble them by it. But yes, that is why it is so special to what Paul is saying here in Romans, because what he's saying here in Romans completely recontextualizes and enlightens us to what is really going on here in Genesis.
So
And
if I look at it at least symbolically or metaphorically, because I'm not ready to look at it as real yet. I don't think I could get happy if I look at it as real. So looking at it as figuratively or metaphorically, I could consider Ishmael, the thing that humbles Hagar, the same way Hagar humbles Sarai.
the Arab community has rooted and traced their lineage back to Ishmael here. Without what happened here with Ishmael, none of those people exist. And I would argue that God cares deeply for them, or he would not put them on the planet at all. And considering what we know and what we've learned on Ace's channel, and of course in that itself is rooted in scripture itself, that all are in the process of being reconciled back to God, I find the creation of a new nation itself to be an incredible thing. And not just here, but even going back to Genesis 11, even you can look at the same type earlier here, where the world, the guys are going, oh yeah, let us mold bricks, and let's they want to build themselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered over the surface of the entire earth. And Yahweh changed the languages of everyone, which, if we're just reading Genesis, yeah, it looks like a dick move. But when we're reading it in context, we see that if that didn't happen in that exact way, then we would not exist today. And it, again, looks from one vantage point as though God just started a bunch of shit here in Genesis 12 to like 20 something. But without those things happening, no one here, not you, not me, not Caleb, not Seth, would be here today. The story itself would not be good at all, and we would not be humbled or learning anything.
I think I understand what perspective you're coming from now. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah. I want to add, go back to where it talks about the seed of Abraham initially, with the capital S.
Yeah.
14.
Yeah. It's something like that. It's some chapter 15. He says, look up toward the heavens and count off the stars if you can number them. And he promised him, thus shall become your seed. The seed, I think you're thinking of Genesis 3, where seed is capitalized with Eve. So Seth, you got to stop being stupid.
No, the first time it pops up, it is a capital S, and it's talking about Christ. That's my whole
thing. Yeah. No, I know. I'm fucking
douchebag.
I am a douchebag. It's at the top of my resume is douchebag.
It's just
anonymous.
The whole point I was going to make for whenever you find it there, her seat. The capital S is important. That's talking about the one who would be born, who would take away the sin of the world, Christ Jesus Christ before he had died. And my point there is, even though all this comes true after this sad story, we then hear about the crucifixion of Christ. And that is stepping up to the plate and taking it all. Whereas even Ishmael, who suffered severely, is going to see Christ for all that he suffered, being cast off.
Yeah, I'm hoping Hagar and Ishmael are put on the new earth. I have no problem with that. And,
That's how all encompassing
but
whole message is that Paul has been given. I mean,
yeah,
John in John 1:11 said, "Lo, the Lamb of God who's taken away the sin of the world." Was he just talking about the world of Israel, or is he talking about the entirety of humanity? The whole
yeah.
system.
Well, even more than that, it says he doesn't say the word there world. It's cosmos. It means system. It doesn't just mean earth.
Yeah.
So it's not just the earth, but also the heavens, and that's also described in Ephesians 1:10 and Colossians 1:20 and a few other places that I can't remember because I don't feel like remembering. But yes, that what's amazing here is that Abraham did not do anything. He didn't earn righteousness by any means.
Yeah. That's our whole point of reading back through Abraham, is to see that he did nothing. He was called and he believed Yahweh.
Yeah.
That belief is not a work, because we don't see the law come through Abraham. Not immediately. It comes through Israel. And shit.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think belief can be a work simply because one cannot choose what they wish to believe.
You can't choose what you hear. Like if I'm screaming in your ear and we're out in public, you could go like this. But if I'm screaming loud enough that you can't not hear it, I'm talking God volume. You're hearing it. You go on Ace's channel. I know you frequent there. You're hearing it there. You can't. I mean, even if you tuned in there on accident and you heard it, you couldn't control that you heard it.
Right, but like I'm just saying, like, hearing it doesn't make it register, right? Like I've heard, like I grew up, I grew up hearing it, right? Like I grew up hearing it, and it doesn't make me able to grasp it. I spent most of my life trying to make myself believe, and nothing I did made me hold on to it. And I think that's because you can't choose your beliefs. You can choose with what to inform your beliefs or the beliefs that you grow into, but I don't think one can choose to make themselves believe in something, right? Like I tried that, it didn't work, and so I don't know how that could be a work.
Yeah. No, I can agree with you on that. It's when you that's why Paul doesn't exactly say that he says acts here, like it by an action. He didn't do something to achieve a justification when he's talking about this. And I think if we're contrasting the word belief, it would be with boast. If you're saying I believe and that's why I'm saved, because I chose this, that is the boast, and it's not toward God, which is what Paul is getting at here. It is God who is sovereign, and he says it very early in chapter 1. He says the evangel is God's power for salvation to everyone who is believing. And as you astutely point out, belief is not at all contingent on you. It's God who provides the thing to believe at all. And I would also point out that I think God does know also exactly what you're talking about with choosing, or you didn't choose, you can't choose what you believe. And a good example of that is this is the verse that Paul is quoting. Abram believed God and he reckoned it to him for righteousness, or it was accounted to him for righteousness. But it's not until a few chapters later that really sinks in. Years later in Abram's time, that really sinks in for Abram. You know, he probably knew, like, logically in his brain, he was like, okay, yeah, I believe you, God, but it didn't sink in for him on a literal, like the gravity of what God said probably didn't really click for him until after he went through this whole fuck up here with screwing his wife's maid.
But I don't think he didn't. I mean, I guess his belief wavered at some point, but I always took it more like how do I explain that? Like, at first he thought, like, he believed God, but he thought he was chosen because he was special. But then this whole mess up proved to him that he wasn't special, and that's not why he was picked by God, right?
No, because he knows in chapter 14 that he's not not that he's not special, but that he was picked, not he chose. And he knows it here. He knows it here this early on in chapter 14, but in chapter 7,
I'm going to say the correlation between Romans and what we're reading now is we're seeing his acts after he was called out, same as us. We're called out, we're justified, and then our acts, we still may miss the mark. We still may sin, and yet we remain as God calls us. He remains the one who will bring about the seed, even though we see that big old hiccup. And like Stephen said, all those people are truly going to be justified as well. We are hearing about his acts. Just as many people in the Old Testament are pretty messed up, but they're human. That's the display, is that, yeah, none of us are special because of what we do, but because God makes us special.
Yeah, and I would also add that it's not exactly that Abram stops believing and that's why he does what he does. I think it's that he believes and then thinks, well, I have to take matters into my own hands. So, which is why,
like those people who say God helps those who help themselves. Apparently, not always.
See how it's like he hearkens to his wife's voice here. This is what Adam did, honestly. Here, it's not a matter of faith. Here, it's a matter of conduct. Here, it's a matter of obedience. But even though Abram disobeyed, not only did God make another nation out of it, but then he humbled Abram by pointing out.
That seems really convenient to me, but continue.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, life kind of works that way, I guess.
No, I mean that the woman is always the bad guy.
No,
it's always because you listen to the woman. It seems rather convenient.
No. That's not what I'm saying. No. I'm not saying that it's That's not what I'm saying. I'm
saying the Bible does that though.
Pixie,
not that you do that.
What you were saying earlier about your thoughts on this not being fair, you were thinking, are you a mother? I'm going to ask, are you a mother?
I am.
So you were thinking as a mother. You're thinking of someone who cares in a way that Stephen, Caleb, and I cannot understand. Therefore, your heart is reflecting the heart of God, desiring to save each of those, even those who are cast away.
Yeah, and I'll also say that, like,
beautiful heart.
It's not that, yeah, it's beautiful, and it's not that that God is blaming the woman here. He does pin it on Abram. He does. It's even Sarai knew. She said, "My wrong is on you." Like, it's not Sarai's decision. It was Abram's decision to not listen.
Hagar, I think Hagar got the short end of the stick. She was a handmaiden. She's pretty much a servant. She didn't have much choice, but she carried the curse.
That is also fair. Yeah. I mean, if you really want to get technical, we go back to Adam, and he got the short end of the stick. He had, like, literally everything working against him right at the start. He has a pretty lady in front of him, probably the most beautiful woman to walk the earth because she's the mother of all. And we have a Satan fucking around in the forest, ruining literally everything. And it was I believe, I don't remember if Ace said it or if maybe it was Cade who said it, but it's a setup. It wasn't a like free will decision or something like that. It was a setup. God set that up, and he didn't call, like, he calls Adam corruptible. I think he defines him as that throughout Paul's letters. I can't remember where though. But that's what I'm getting at is that, again, it's not like the woman is not at all put to blame here in terms of the perspective of the story, which is told from Abram's perspective. It's Abram very much knows he fucked up.
I guess you're right. I guess if I look at it in that aspect.
And and don't get me wrong, like,
just
don't get me wrong. I agree with you. It's not fair. It's not designed to be fair. But then again, Christ's sacrifice also is not fair.
But
So
it's not that it's not that it's not fair, right? It's that every religion I have explored has basically said the same things up front, right? Like, this is how you live a good life. This is how you get truth and knowledge and enlightenment. And also, this is love.
Yeah.
And what I have discovered every single time is that these gods are built by humans in very human-like manners. So either we're very, very wrong, where God is brutal and petty and vengeful and jealous and very human-like. Otherwise, why this story?
This story here, because again, it shows that no matter how much Abram were to screw up here, God promised once again that he is going to be the father of many nations, which we can see the effect of that today. He was promised it, and he was also promised a place in it. So we know that that kingdom that is literally promised to him in Genesis 12 is still going to appear. It's still going to be here when, and it's just future. So Abram knew that this, even though, like, you know, he had to come to grips with the fact that this wasn't the end.
Okay, I don't know that I can hold this forever, but I think I tenuously can grasp an understanding at the moment. So again, thank you.
Of course. And I'm not saying that I have a full understanding of it either. I don't have like a 100% comprehension, but I will say that I don't know how far you are into Paul's letters, but what me and Seth are doing here is we are going into the Roman letter, which, starting in chapter 3, goes into God calling you out. This is a very intimate message right here. He says this righteousness of God is manifest through Jesus Christ's faith, and it's being put into, the Greek says, into all the ones believing. So it's literally being placed into you on his terms, irrespective of, you know, your action, which again, Paul is running when you're entering here. Paul is running through the proof of that by using the big guy that the Jews heralded all the time and said, oh yeah, Abraham was so great because he did this thing here or that thing there, and that caused him to believe. But Paul pretty much does here what Ace would say, or what I would say, or what Seth would say, which is, hey, read the text. It's not about what Abraham did, but about what God gave. So when we get here, it says, yeah, to the worker, the wage is not accounted to you as a favor, but as a debt. So if you were working, if you were the worker, yeah, you would be owed something. If this were the case for you, it would be a debt. God would be indebted to you, which, as you again astutely pointed out, that's how man works. Man is the one that says, yeah, it is. I give Seth $20 and he owes me for later, or I give Caleb my super awesome Lego Star Wars poster and he owes me $20 for it, whatever it is. But yet to him who is not working, but is believing, on him who justifies the irreverent, his faith is reckoned for righteousness, or into righteousness. Same Greek word is used, into. So it's not about, so God is not calling out the people who believe they are owed something or believe that God is incentivizing them, because literally God works in the opposite direction. But it's only in being human and being what you are and how you are that you can understand the opposite being God himself. That's what, I mean, literally, that's what sin does. Sin misses the mark. If God doesn't miss the mark, it means the opposite of your failure is God. And you can even also look earlier in Romans 1, where Paul talks about the effect of everything that humanity is. Not to say that we, like you personally, are given these all of these adjectives, but they are all adjectives that accurately describe the entirety of humanity as a whole. Injustice, wickedness, evil, greed, distended with envy, murder, strife, guile, depravity, whisperers, vilifiers, detesters of God, outragers, proud, ostentatious, inventors of evil things, stubborn to parents, unintelligent, perfidious, without natural affection, implacable, and unmerciful. The opposite of all of these things is God.
I don't know about that. I mean, I do and I don't, right? Like, distended to envy. Then why is God a jealous God? Why does wrath belong to God?
Because anger itself is not unrighteous.
But
If
it's
you
okay for him to be envious?
It doesn't say that he gets envious.
Okay, jealous. But what is envy except being jealous of something that you don't have or that someone else has?
When we are looking over something, like here, I'll find an example. When we are looking at God being jealous, it is not to say that God
He
cannot.
wants something he doesn't have. He doesn't, like, you are recognizing something above him. He doesn't have your attention, your worship, your dedication, your something. So he's jealous. Is that not being jealous over something you do not have?
I would argue that jealousy is more, you don't want or you want love primarily from, or sorry, you want your veneration to be, how should I fucking say it? God would be desiring that his, or that your veneration is directed at him alone and no other.
Let's define the word jealousy or jealous, and let's define the word envy so we understand what these words mean.
We can.
No, let's do it right now because it's on the topic of discussion. It's
I know,
it's at the forefront of Pixie's mind. So let's go to the definitions before we look at where they're displayed.
Okay.
That's my point. I want to know what the words are before I know how they're used.
Be zealous. Look at this is Israel. when it's talking about this, it's talking about Israel provoke. Let me find zealous. It's the Greek word there. No, what the hell is that? W. Z comes after W, I think. Zealous.
Boiling. It means boiling in the Greek.
Boil.
Zelos. Zelos.
To desire. Envy is a part of the definition, it's not the whole. Affect, covet, desire.
Sadducees.
That was exactly what the verse I was going to go into, the 2 Corinthians 11:2. I'm trying to get at the context matters when we're talking about jealousy, because it's not like an absolute thing. If we're talking about absolute, God says he's love. So if we're talking about a relative sense, the world's theology will tell you that to be jealous of something is automatically horrible and evil and whatnot. But then there are some that would argue that when I know you're jealous, that's how I know you care about me. So there's more than one.
Okay, so just like a mild, not a. So you would say that jealous is like the mild, like But I get it. And then envy would be more like coveting. That's what you're saying. Wanting something that doesn't belong to you.
Yeah.
Versus
okay. But when we're talking about jealousy, it's when usually he's talking about it in terms of idolatry. Like, again, for example, if we're talking, he's not talking about it like on a personal level. He's saying you're worshiping like random things when I made those things. So why aren't you worshiping me for making those things? It's a zeal or a passion for God, but not in accord with a recognition of it. Which is why
it's more like you're giving all my credit to these things that I created, and not I want this thing I cannot have.
Yeah, which is why it's like when he talks about it, like in Isaiah, he goes on about how I myself created the heavens and the earth. It was me. I did these things, and the verse I was going to bring up here is 2 Corinthians. When we're talking about the Corinthians, if you know, they were they were into all sorts of like pagan prostitution. They were going into pagan temples and screwing the prostitutes there, and it was supposed to serve as joining their spirit with another deity, even though God had already called them out. And he said, "You're not out of Christ, but I kind of care about you. Why are you just ignoring me here?"
Okay.
And so yeah, we're not talking about something that he doesn't have. We're talking about like if a husband cheated on the wife would go, "Well, what the hell? I'm jealous, literally, that you just cheated on me with that one random woman when I'm right here," or vice versa. You know. And that's even the context here. I betroth you to one man to present a chaste virgin to Christ. That's the analogy that's drawn when we're talking about jealousy. So again, context does matter. It's not just he's the jealous God. It's a jealousy of God. It's not what describes his character, but...
Well, that's fair. Jealousy is far less concerning than wrath. But...
And it's also to add, it's also, again, a temporary thing. It's not a permanent thing that's happening. He's not going to stay jealous for all time, because sin's not going to exist for all time, because he's only putting us through like this is a blip, like this is like this tiny little dot on the radar screen in comparison to the entirety of everything, even outside the eons. I mean, if we want to go like really expansive, I mean, yeah, this is
Okay.
just
Maybe
this
not
is-
on the same page, but in the same book now.
there we go. That's all that, and that's okay. That's all that matters. Because I mean, it does matter if we're talking about God being righteous. I mean, we want to make sure and verify that he is indeed righteous and that he's a God even worth worshiping. So, yeah. Caleb, you got something to add?
No, you got it pretty good there.
Seth?
I was just looking up zeal and envy. They're both, or jealousy and envy. They're both rooted in zeal. Just looking that up.
Yeah, and zeal itself, as we saw, was a boil.
hmm I think the thing that we're learning the most through this word study individually is that words aren't bad, that wrath being a word is not bad, knowing it's absolutely of God and it's telling of a real experience that will be had or has been had by humanity to realize God is God. Everyone that's ever died will realize that God is God, and they won't be cast away. They won't be sent to misunderstanding. Even those who are sent to the second death, the lake of fire, are justified before they are thrown in. Because their next instance, they're not going to have to be justified afterwards. They've already been justified. They've already been judged. They've already realized everything that led up to that point. Their next moment is seeing Christ.
Yeah,
It's life.
they're going to finally be shown the full picture, and that's going to be incredible. And I'll be honest with you, again, I can't verify it 100%, but I'm very much of the opinion that very, very, very few are actually going to go into a second death, you know, especially when we are changed and we see the fullness of the picture. We're going to be like, wow, that's far different than what I thought it was, even now. Yeah, the wrath ultimately benefits the creature, even though we can't understand it in the moment. It's like when you are like a child and you go to cross the street when the little stop sign is up, and your mom pulls you back and yanks you back, and it hurts your arm, and you're like, "Mom, what the hell?" And she's like, "What the hell? Why are you walking? I didn't tell you to walk." Or you could say maybe like kid reaching their hand into the cookie jar before they're supposed to, or before dinner, and mom slaps their hand and goes, "Hey, don't 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 go into the cookie jar." And the kid's just mad because it's like, "Well, I wanted a cookie."
Does that mean they should never ever go into the cookie jar?
Right.
That's this lesson that we're being taught. Even, I mean, especially as having been formerly children, and those of us who have to take care of others in any capacity, even ourselves. Taking care of yourself is a chore. It's and it doesn't. What's the payoff? You don't die.
Right. Right.
Like, yeah, are we keeping ourselves alive? Absolutely. That's not what I'm saying. But the intention is that we have something inside of each of us that drives us crazy, and yet we still live our day to day lives. And there is sanity through grace, which is realizing that none of this is of us, and yet we are the ones experiencing all of it.
Seth, read this verse here, starting in verse 20, starting here.
Where are we at?
This is Genesis 50, verse 20.
You devised evil against me, yet Elohim, he devised it for good in order to accomplish, as at this day, to preserve many people alive. So now do not fear, I myself shall sustain you and your little ones. Thus he comforted them and spoke to their hearts.
I will also, this is in the middle of Joseph's story. Pixie, if you are interested, I would recommend looking at Joseph's story, because Joseph's story is filled with all kinds of BS that, you know, he literally is victimized. Like, yeah, he has a bit of a prideful streak. He was probably a little asshole. Oh, well, my dad made me a coat of many colors.
Well,
And
yeah,
guys-
he was the favorite, but it probably didn't deserve being sold into slavery.
Right.
He did kind of get back at them when they came back, and he pretended not to recognize them. So
A little, yeah. There was definitely some of that, and that's but that's what makes this part here so beautiful. Joseph returned to Egypt after he had entombed his father, he and his brothers and all those going up with him to entomb his father. Yet Joseph's brothers, seeing that their father was dead, said, "Suppose Joseph holds a grudge against us and should pay back for all the evil that we dealt out to him." So they sent forth a message to Joseph saying, "Your father gave instructions before his death, saying, 'Thus shall you speak to Joseph. I pray you, please bear with the transgression of your brothers and their sin, for they dealt badly with you. So now please bear with the transgression of the servants of Elohim of your father.' And Joseph wept over the words to him. And then his brothers also came and fell down before him and said, 'Behold, we are yours as servants.' And Joseph replied, 'Do not fear, for am I in the place of Elohim?'" And that's where we get into, am I in the place of Elohim? That's beautiful. You devised evil against me, yet Elohim, he devised it for good. So even though he was sold into slavery, it was literally used. I mean, just think about, even in terms of closer to the present day, I mean, think about how many slaves from the 1800s are going to be presented on Judgment Day. And just think about how many of them are going to be attuned to this.
I mean,
And all the people that are...
I won't say that you guys don't have good news, right? You probably have the best news out of all the news I've heard so far. But at the same time, I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in that like all of this is needed. But I'm the kind of person, right? Like I don't even like to kill spiders. I don't like to kill bugs. I don't like to hurt things. And so the idea that like I would create something that I adored, but all of this would be necessary, it's really hard to hold on to. It really is.
Yeah. It took me like 4 years to even really for that to even sink in for me. And
8 for me.
Yeah, it took a lot of people quadruple that time to come to grips with it. So I can't blame you. But I would say if you're interested, of course, you clearly seem to be, just keep looking at Ace's streams. Sometimes Ace's streams can be kind of chaotic, but and it leaves not enough room for like real thought and discussion. But on the days where it's probably more relaxed and it's just him and Seth screwing around or something, those are easier.
You say I just screw around.
Hey, those rougher days are good for getting out the pent up energy.
And that's
I'm
also
good at that too.
And once again, it's like those days that are devised that are there's some random Christian like Jill in the chat, like that they come in and raise hell. It's the same principle that Joseph or God just portrayed through Joseph. Yes, you were willing evil, and yet God devised it for good. It's exactly what you're talking about. There could be pent up energy that needs to be let out. There's also some pretty incredible things that we've discovered in those discussions with Ace. Like when the preterist said that, oh yeah, it's not especially of believers, it's exclusively of believers. And that had to be one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. I'm sorry. I don't like to just call
It is dumb though.
I was like, bro, do you know like the difference between two words? It's not that hard. But we did a whole word study on it. It led us to do a whole like breakdown live. Just, hey, what about this is where it's used, this is where it's used, this is where it's used, and so on and so forth. And that led us to understand the verses where it especially is used far better. Yeah.
Well, if I never believe, I've met some amazing people because you guys are awesome.
Yeah. Like I
Welcome.
said, when I heard you hop on the stream and just light up the preterists. I thought that was the funniest shit. And I had no clue who you were, but I was like, that was fucking awesome. She's lit for that.
Sometimes people like that make it easy. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, what good is good news without a little opposition? And Mario said it earlier. I think where the hell did he say it? Or maybe it was. Oh, yeah, the light shines brighter in the dark. I mean, you can't know light without darkness. It's why God doesn't say "Let there be light" until after there was a whole disruption of the world. So.
What is the end of our story?
And
We're one
God
big happy family.
I
all
don't know.
in
Everybody
some,
wins.
all in a little.
Well, I
God's never
I
won.
like your version. I like y'all's version because everybody wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody wins, literally. And the best part is that the people that are being shown that now are going to be the very people that he uses to affect the everybody wins.
Mm-hmm. Christ already did everything. We're just following suit, and it's not because I can. It's because God wills it. Am I God? Hell no. I'm glad I'm not God. It's a lot of responsibility.
I could be
I mean,
God.
he has to make all the hard choice. He had to make all the hard choices. Like, do you think he takes any pleasure in all the evil and suffering? I don't think he takes any pleasure in it.
I bet those 3 days where, the all-knowing, all-powerful God and Father of all missed his son, knowing he would still rouse him. He's that's the beauty in seeing that they're not the same.
Yeah.
That we are not making God out to be like man, corruptible, and we're not making Christ out to be like God, who is unknowable. Isn't that beautiful that Christ is knowable? He's
Oh, it is.
perceivable. He is word. He is
Yeah. And think about it.
picture.
When he dies, Christ or God lost his voice. Literally. He lost his voice. For 3 days, he lost everything. He lost his image, he lost his expression, he lost his word, he lost his heart, he lost everything.
All the prophecies, all the things that we just read about Abram, everything about the wars that happened then led up to a war that no one could literally see. And yet Christ experienced it with every bit of the adversary, all of his cabinet, all of them. He made a display of their power.
Yeah.
He made a display of their power when he couldn't even move any further than where he was nailed to. The Son of God became a cursed man.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to for us. Because really God wanted to for us. Christ said, if there's any other way. And yet God gave him the very breath to say, not my will, but yours be done. That's an obvious separation between God and Christ not being the same being. And yet they have the same spirit. That they're willing to do anything. And by anything, I mean everything. Everything. Not all possibilities, all facts, every atom in its place, every breath purposed. You can't escape that God loves you, even if you curse him with the breath that he gives you. He knows what you're about to say before you say it, and yet he loves you.
Yeah, Pixie, did you know that the scientists have gone into studies on this? Your brain will reach a conclusion like 4 or 5 seconds before you actually consciously think of it.
I would
Which-
assume so. I would assume chemicals are faster than processing them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty awesome. I never knew that until maybe like a couple years ago, maybe, but it was really awesome to learn that.
Chemicals on their own are stagnant. I mean, there's really nothing going on, but you put them around each other, you have them in an environment, You have them in. They exist. They can't help but exist around each other, and there's things that happen called chemical reactions just by putting things together, and just by them being.
Chemtrails.
It's inevitable how everything comes together, and yet we can take every periodic element that we have, every unknown element that exists, and it all exists, and you can see that this is that, this is that. That's what's so beautiful about Israel coming out before the body of Christ is there was something to attain. There was separation. There was a literal circumcision. What other people in the world were doing that exact thing? There was probably mutilation. There was probably screwed up stuff happening. But for this one thing to be of God, to declare these people as his people, they can't escape that. And yet Abraham, once Abram, he didn't do anything to earn it.
Yeah, but some of those rules, I look at some of those rules and I have lots of questions for God. I'm just saying, some of them make sense, right?
Like what? What are you talking about?
But like Old Testament rules and stuff
Oh,
for
I don't.
for
Go ahead.
Israel.
Yeah, I don't know
Like,
much about them. Go ahead.
some of them make sense, but some of them are ridiculous, and I don't get it. Like, for example, things that make sense are like the things that were tribalistic, right? Because you have to separate yourself from your neighbors. You have to tell your friends from your foes from a long way off in this very brutal, superstitious time. So I get it. You know, the whole don't mix cotton and linen, don't trim your beard, this and that. I get it. But what I don't get is weird things like if you touch a dead body, sprinkle bird's blood on you, right? Like wave the bird around and get the blood on you, and like who thinks this helps? Who thinks animal blood is going to help your sickness? Anybody? Like, I'm confused about this. Why these weird things?
Touching a dead body won't make you sick at all.
Right, but wait, even they had another thing for sickness that was similarly weird. My point is, how is this cleansing or healing? I don't. Why these rules?
God, it makes us quite humiliated in this flesh, doesn't he? Doing
Yeah, I
stupid
was
shit
gonna
like
say
that.
I don't have an exact answer on some of those rules, but I also like it's really I also don't care. not that I don't.
This
care
may
about
be
it,
something that we don't know about until the all in all.
Yeah,
This may be something that God doesn't unveil to us. Why did this specific thing happen? Why? Like, yeah, we can see God says, "Do this." Hey, Moses, use a stick, and you're going to separate water for your people to walk through. Okay, put blood on a doorpost. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
They
you could
complained
also,
for 40 years after that. It's just like wild. You know, God does things for you, amazing things in your miracle life every day. It's a fact that we're all alive is a fucking miracle, and yet we still have to do a bunch of mundane, unreasonable, seemingly unreasonable stuff. The amount of times I can't even talk during a day, like reading earlier. It's like, do I want to like read slowly, articulately, and then I stumble over words. It's simple. It's stuff I've been doing my whole life, and yet God gets the truth out there, even through idiots like us. It's a beautiful thing.
yeah, I mean, you
Fair answer.
yeah,
I kind of rambled, but the
no,
thing is, this grace that we're being shown, and the law that wasn't even yet given to Abraham. Yet back then, it says that there were those that were sinning against Yahweh, meaning they couldn't see him for who he was,
yeah,
representative of God. And Abraham did. That's all he did was believe Yahweh. He didn't do anything. Everything that he ended up fucking up on was from God to show him that he is God and that we are not.
and on top of that, it's like the law itself. It's not just that it applies to what was going on specifically from Moses to Christ. It's literally called the law, and it's supposed to reflect the very law that's going to be presented in the 1,000-year kingdom. So even if it doesn't make too much sense at this exact moment, it's not the last time we see the law. God just says that they will have that law written in their hearts to be able to do them the second time around during that 1,000-year kingdom. So even if it doesn't look like it makes a lot of sense in this exact moment, it could also be something that will make more sense during that 1,000-year kingdom.
There's a big pivotal moment in that 1,000-year kingdom being realized in that Christ has been crucified. It's no longer sacrificing your best animal to God, which was part of the law too, which was around before the law. There was a sacrifice given to God from Abel, and there was a sacrifice given to God from, well, a sacrifice from Cain was really his best. His best was just vegetation, and Abel's best was it a sheep or a lamb?
I don't remember.
I think it was a lamb, and it's Christ is the archetype. It's like that right there shows us what's about to happen for the whole world, and it started right here. And look, one was jealous over the other. Look at that humanity on
Well,
display
but
as the
to
first
be
4 people ever. 2 of them, they literally kill one another.
to be fair, God caused the jealousy. He instigated it by showing favor, knowing that the other one didn't have the same thing to offer.
Hmm.
Yeah. And on top, and that's not the only time that that he says he's doing that. He even says that he's calling us out now in order to provoke Israel to jealousy.
Hmm.
So he says he's calling out people of the nations because to literally make his chosen people jealous. He's giving us a higher allotment than them.
Yeah, they would mess up under the law, and oh my God, now we have to go absolve our sins by killing an animal. And then the greatest creation God ever created, Christ Himself, His lone begotten Son, His only true creature, not creature, the one bit of creation that actually knew Him. We all come out of Christ. Like none of us have our being apart from the image of God, and realizing Him is seeing that even what Israel is going to have, where they actually can do the law, they will do it because they're in the presence of God, which is the image of God, Christ. Christ is not the Father, and yet He represents the Father in all things. No one, no one could do the law perfectly except for Jesus, and He had to step out of godliness to do it. And then we see everyone can do it because they saw that Christ did it, even obedience unto the point of death, the death of the cross. It's immaculate. That's like earlier when I was saying this separation of Ishmael and Isaac. You go, how is that a good thing? And then you see all of those creatures, all those humans that are born through all of these nations. I mean, when when Yahweh said to Abraham, through you many nations will be born,
Yeah.
we now see that it was more than maybe what we think is righteous and good, where he went in and did something ahead of God. Ahead of God. God knew exactly what he was going to do. He gave Abraham this decaying old man body and said, "You're old." And Abraham listened and he obeyed what he was thinking about what he could do rather than being patient on God. And everyone is born. Everyone is born through every experience that some might say is a fuck up. Some of the relationships we have, some of the things we go through, people probably have parents that didn't stay together, and it's like, or like don't stay together for the kids, it just happens. And yet every every disposition, every position where God puts us is true because he's telling us this is how real life gets. I'm going to separate you. I'm going to pick you apart. I'm going to make you do crazy shit like put bird's blood on you. And yet it's to the glory of God. And we don't have a clue what that looks like yet. Paul saw it and he couldn't even talk about it. He said he was ineffable.
Ineffable declaration.
He went further in time than anybody. The third heaven, I used to think was just like a physical place. It's also a place in time. It has to do with the eons and the 2 previous times where God got rid of everything that he had made. He 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 gives that experience to spiritual beings and does away with the first earth. And at that point, or he corrupts it in a way. And that's the moment where Christ's sacrifice is implemented into the scripture, where his blood as the lamb is foreknown. And it doesn't, that's the moment where Paul says that we are considered his. And none of us were born then. None of us existed then. And yet God is so sure of what he's doing that he placed all of these things today, tomorrow, the next day, and the consummation of all in all, to where he was in himself. God was in himself without Christ and was totally at peace with himself and knew everything he would do, all the hurt, all the heartache each of us would experience in not knowing, to the truth that he is and we are becoming. We're becoming his. I need to go to bed soon, so I'm kind of just ranting out. So
I gotta go because I got to get up early tomorrow.
same. You guys got anything you want to
Thank you
say?
for entertaining me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, I'm good.
Caleb, glad to have you here. Pixie, glad to have you here.
All right, I love you, Seth and Stephen.
Love you too, brother.
Grace, peace
Grace and
to
peace,
everyone.
y'all.
Good night, everyone. Sleep well and dream easy.
We will
you.
get combing through the rest of this chapter in a consequent video, and maybe 2 or 3 or 4 more. Who knows? Because that's what we do. We like to figure out what this stuff says. Let's read it. Woo! Thanks for having us. Thanks for joining us. Taking your time. Stay crucial, everybody.
All right.
Grace,
Grace
love,
and
and peace.
Peace out.
Yeah.